I don't know, that's because maybe he wanted to use drugs again and womanize. I don't understand that part of it. He used drugs and he womanized while he was Jewish. And then he got fed up with it, so he became a Christian. He didn't use drugs and womanize while a Christian. But then what, he wanted to use drugs and womanize again, so he went back to Judaism? Isn't that kind of an insult to his religion? I can't follow that conversion. It says like you're allowed to do that? I must have missed that in the Old Testament. Where did it say that you can use drugs and womanize in the Old Testament? But it doesn't say that in the New Testament. The whole thing doesn't make sense. But it led me to a question for my audience today, since it's summer and you're not interested in anything, which is this. Have any of you left your religion, whatever it may have been, and gone to another religion? Hold it now. Hold it. And then gone back to your original religion, and why? It's more of an essay question than a short answer. The short answer question will be, have any of you left your religion and gone to another one? The answer is yes or no. Yes, fine, not interesting. The essay question is, have any of you left your religion of your parents and of your birth, gone to another religion, and then gone back to your original religion, and why? Now you got an essay question, and you can call 1-800-449-8255 because I have a migraine, and that's what I'd rather talk about. I'll be right back.
The Wall Street Journal this morning, weekdays 5 to 6 a.m. on Talk 910 KNEW.
Voy a hacer una prescripción, regresaré mañana.
Says you have to take it easy, and he's going to give you a prescription. He'll be back tomorrow.
I want my own doctor, flying in from Miami. Don't trust the doctor, can't speak English.
My sentiments exactly. I don't trust a doctor who can't speak English. Well, get used to it, because if you've been in an emergency room recently, it's like the Tower of Babel. You try to find somebody you can talk to. You don't know whether to pull out prayer beads or wave a feather around. You don't know what's going on in there today. That's, of course, the famous scene from Godfather, where he's in Havana, and the Meyer Lansky character has like a heart thing, and he wants a doctor, and they send him a Spanish doctor from Cuba. And he says, I don't trust any doctor who can't speak English. I don't know. It's unbelievably funny. Which is not to say that he's not right. I mean, have you been in a hospital recently? It's frightening. It's like Dostoevsky lately, hospitals. That's why I say the whole system is screwed up. The best and the brightest don't go into medicine anymore. It's true that they did in my generation. I mean, really, some bright kids went into medicine. Really smart kids. I wouldn't say the best necessarily, the brightest, but really smart kids. It was tough to get through medical school and pass the exams. But today, have you looked at what's going on? I mean, it's frightening. It really is unbelievable to me. The level of medical care has already fallen to a low level. I wouldn't say that we're still in the highest level in the world. Yes, you can still find it in this country if you're willing to shop for it and you have the money to pay for it. But what's coming next is going to take us down not one rung, but many rungs. But that's why I want to talk more about the religion thing. It was very intriguing to me. Like, what religion you were born in, then you became something else, and did you go back, and why? I think it's an interesting question. So I'm going to take a few of those calls. And then, after that, we're taking the break. And in the third segment of this hour, I'm going to play what many of you flooded us with a request for yesterday's opening, where I went nuts railing against communism in America under the Obama administration and how they're deceiving you. And I can't repeat it again, but I'm going to play it again, Sam. But let's take the callers as they're lined up. Chicago, Tom, go ahead, please. Religion. You were born a what?
Yeah, I was a Christian, then I became a Buddhist, and now I'm back to my Christian roots.
How long were you a Buddhist?
I was a Buddhist for about 4 years, and I realized I was doing it for the wrong reasons, and I used to watch libs going to Thai restaurants, and it drove me nuts the way they acted. I said, I'm not going to be a part of this anymore, and I felt more comfortable going back to my Christian roots.
Well, you mean you suggested all liberals who go in Chinese restaurants are Buddhists?
No. I've heard you talk about how when libs go into...
Oh, yeah, they bow, or they put their hands together and give a little curtsy when they want a napkin or a glass of water. The guy looks at them like they're nuts.
Exactly, and when I did it, and I'm a conservative, but when I did it, I realized after a few years I was doing it for the wrong reasons.
Wait, I'm mixed up. You're saying you became a Buddhist to get better Chinese food?
No, I became a Buddhist because I was reading books on it, and I was attracted to it, but at the same time...
The fact is that I'll tell you the truth, I never became a Buddhist, but I've read Buddhist literature, the sutras. It's beautiful poetry. And, you know, it's universalist, and many of their writings are universalist. You'll see it transcend any religion. It's commonsensical.
Yes, but then I realized...
Right, but you don't have to be... Here's my point. You can read another religion's writings, but you don't have to become a practitioner of that religion in order to adhere to those teachings, because it will only lead you back to your own religion if you read your own religion more carefully.
Yes, I agree, but it took me a few years to figure that out, because...
Well, what made you originally become a Buddhist?
I think maybe I was in a rebellious stage where I was...
That was the women. Come on. Most of them had no bras, and it was the patchouli oil. I know, but you don't want to admit it. It was the tie-dyes. It was the whole thing. You thought you'd get lucky, but it didn't work. All right. So there it is. I remember I was at a hotel in Kauai 15 years ago, and the children were young. I stayed in a room, and they had the books. Like today, they used to have in every hotel room a Gideon Bible in America, right? Today, even in the hotel chains that are owned by Christians, there's no Gideon Bible. It's pay-per-view pornography to show you the degenerate nation we live in. Okay, the pornographers have so penetrated our society that every hotel room, instead of having a Gideon Bible for those horrible moments in the middle of the night, they have pornography available in little liquor bottles. Any wonder the country's elected Obama? The people are so stoned and dissipated from porno and alcohol that you have these utter clowns and incompetents ruining America. I would say if they had a Bible for people to reach upon, perhaps we would still have a president we could count upon.
Savage. Roger Hedgecock coming up at 7. Now, the Savage Nation on Talk 910 KNEW.
Well, we're going from politics to religion today because if you really want to make people angry, you may as well talk about religion and politics. Mom taught me never to talk about politics or religion, how wrong she was. And the fact of the matter is, you want to, attract people's attention, you got to talk about politics and religion. Since I normally talk about politics and not religion, occasionally I will read from the Bible. I think today is a good day to talk about a little bit about religion. That's why all right, turn it off already with the DDD. I've given up on Indian food. I haven't had it for months. I can't eat it anymore. And the reason is because they use the lunch buffet food at night when you come in for dinner. I mean, it's $8.95 all you're going to eat for lunch, right? You come back at night, you figure the same smiler guy is going to be there. It's the same salad, rehashed tandoori chicken. You're better off buying a Safeway chicken for $8.95 and heating up potatoes. Anyway, so to go back to the religion thing, I asked the question, if you were one religion and then went into another and then went back to your original religion, why? It's an interesting, it's a transition a lot of people go through. Does it matter? I mean, is it an interesting question to you? I would think it is if you listen to another person talk about it, like you were born Jewish and you became this, then you went back to Judaism, or you're born Christian, you became this, then you went back to that. Why? Why'd you do that? North Carolina James, what was your religious passage about?
Yes, when I was 14, I read The Naked Ape by Desmond Morris, and I became an atheist. And then
you became an atheist or an atheist?
An atheist.
Oh, because I read The Naked Ape, and I didn't become an ape.
No, I became an atheist.
Why? Because it was a very interesting book, and I did read it. I was a little older, but you're saying it's because he convinced you that we were nothing but the origin of species and the descent of man, and there was no God.
Yes.
Okay, then what happened?
A few years later, I converted to Judaism at the age of 22.
Wait a minute, you go from Christianity to atheism to Judaism. Why?
Things convinced me. I believed that I must have a soul, because I thought to myself, if I didn't have a soul, if a copy were made of my body, why wouldn't that be me?
Okay, that was an interesting concept. That's a cloning question, and a very, very interesting one. And how long were you Jewish before I understand you went back to Christianity?
About 2 years.
Why?
Then I began to study Christianity with a different perspective, for the first time, I understood the concept of the Trinity, that it is speaking about only one God, that Jesus himself is God, and I understood the salvation of mankind, that God himself became a human being and paid the price for all of man's sins. And so Christianity...
So wait, so how did that concept help you get through life?
I feel that I can communicate with God since I became a Christian. I feel that the only way that you can really communicate with God is believing in Jesus.
Now, what about those billions who are not Christians? Can they communicate with God through their own religion?
I believe that since God paid an infinite price for mankind, I believe that you cannot communicate with God except